This is a little bit impromptu, but decided to go and make an update video about some changes that happened. Especially since it's been a while since I posted my last video, a lot of things has happened. I've finally figured out why my car is misfiring. It's the spark plugs. For some reason, I didn't like the iridiums I put in. I don't know why. Because I threw in the factory recommended copper spark plugs, and it just runs fine now. And I don't know why, but I'm just gonna run them, which is really annoying because those were new spark plugs too. I really don't know why I just didn't like the iridiums. Other than that, the only thing left in the engine is I need to get a timing cover because the old one was mangled, and I'm gonna get a full exhaust system. I'm probably gonna go with headers also. One thing I forgot to mention, although it runs beautifully compared to what it was running before, it seems to be running rich when I drive it around, and O2 sensor has gone old. As O2 sensors grow old with age, they start getting lazy and become slower to respond to the ECU. So I'm gonna need a new exhaust system and an O2 sensor before I could actually truly hunt the fuel mixture rate issue. But also the car is burning oil, and I did not rebuild the lower end block, so I'm thinking that the oil control rings on one or more of the pistons has gone bad, and it's burning about half a quart every 100 miles, so probably about roughly a full quart every 200 miles, which is not ideal, but oh well. So basically, add a quart of oil every gas up. So car gauge 20 miles a gallon, which is kind of amazing since it's kind of smells like it's dumping too much gasoline into the engine. But so it's quite dailyable. Actually been dailying this car quite a bit. Ever since the misfire has been fixed, I just drove it around because it's generally a nice car to drive. Other stuff I've been doing, I've done to the Z car, chasing the spark plugs, the misfire that's actually caused by the spark plug. I would have done that work anyway, to be honest. Like, new cap and rotor, obviously needed a distributor. New spark plug wire, especially ones on it was original, definitely needed. And then especially fuel system, rebuilding the fuel system. The hosing is just old, and then there's definitely crap that got into the fuel injectors. It just runs so nicely ever since I did all that work. So even if I didn't have a misfire, I was good to do all that work. The fuel system, the ignition system, all those stuff. And then the rewiring the injectors. It seemed to run better after rewiring the injectors. The early pre-facelift Z car owners have an issue called this cold start bug, where on cold starts the ECU has a programming problem where it would start leaning out the engine. After rewiring the injectors, it's still noticeable when the ECU starts leaning out the engine, but it no longer stumbles at all. It's still perfectly drivable. One day I might install a wideband O2 sensor, make sure it's not running way too lean, but honestly, it just runs way better after doing all that work. Headlights. I aimed fix the mounting on the headlights, so now they're aimed perfect. The headlights are actually a lot better than some modern cars, surprisingly. Turns out the previous owner swapped out the seal beams for some composite lights, although it's still glass face, so like the ones with a replaceable bulb. And I might throw a picture later, but it has the LED ring around the headlight housing, which looks pretty sick. And the issue is that the LED ring wasn't wired up, so I might wire it up to the parking lights, and so I would have a awesome daytime running lights on the Z. I'm pretty sure that'll look cool. And then also the rear brakes ran out of pads, so I need to order new brake pads and rotors for the rear brakes. And since I'm gonna do brakes, I'm going to replace I'm gonna rebuild both the front and rear calipers. The Z seems to be leaking brake fluid. Like, which is kind of bad. The compass definitely need to be rebuilt. So that's another thing on my wish list. I don't know if I mentioned this, but when I first got the Z, the transmission wasn't quite right. When it had lots of slop, like shifter slop, like it's so much slop that while I was driving it, it was very easy to misshift. That Z's guy eventually get a short throw shifter kit. Mostly just because the stock shifter is so sloppy. Honestly, don't mind the throw on the current shifter, but because it's so sloppy, I just want to get that slop fixed, and then might as well put short throw while at it. And then that's not the biggest concern. The biggest concern is going the third and fourth gear. For some reason, when I got into it, it always ground third gear when shifting to it, and it takes extreme efforts to shift into fourth. And one day, while I was driving, it got stuck into third, and will not come out third. And that was fun. Driving the car home with only third gear, no neutral either, just third gear. So every time from stoplight, I have to do a third gear start, which, thanks to the V6 engine, is bearable. I'm suspecting that the previous owner or owners forcefully yanked on the shifter so hard that I bent something in the shift linkages, fork, or something got bent, or something got mangled, and because of that, I have to drop the transmission off the car. What I'm currently in the process of is dropping the transmission. I chopped off the exhaust pipe, had it removed, and the reason I had to chop it off is it's so awful. There was no flanges at all on the. It has an aftermarket exhaust pipe. So I'm trying to swap out the catalytic converter for a test tube and a muffler for a I don't know, fork cannon. And honestly, the materials they use is alright, but the weld is awful. It had no penetration, just full of splatter. Like those gaping holes, it ended up fracturing in multiple places. So, and because they used no flanges, it I had no choice but to chop the exhaust system off because I cannot just unbolt it. I had to take it solid, so I just chopped the whole system off. I'll throw some B-rolls showing off how crap it is. But, yeah, exhaust system has been removed now. And now I just have to take off everything else, like the heat shield, the drive shaft, the clutch hydraulics. I already removed the shifter lever. In the future episodes, you'll see me pulling out the transmission. And while I have the transmission out, getting replaced, I'm going to replace the clutch slave cylinder and maybe the master cylinder, because why not? And also a clutch, because why not? Let's say, how come I haven't really been posting lately? Why my channel's kind of gone quiet lately, and honestly, I was kind of busy with my I have school college classes, especially finals week came up. I was struggling to make time to not only work on the car, but work record and edit these videos, because turns out that setting up cameras kind of, especially try to make it not look like total ass, it kind of takes effort and takes longer than I hoped. But and then there's also the editing part, kind of all the well, not all the some of the but kind of just garbage crap. I don't illegible crap that I sometimes spew out when talking. So I should have more time to work on these videos and also work on the cars. Oh yeah, did I say cars? I also have another car. It's a 07 Mazda 3. So in the future, you might see the Mazda 3 come up in the future videos. Besides the cars, I reorganized this garage a little bit better. So I have a little bit more space. I'm still working on it. I hope to make enough space to build a table or construct a table, a workbench of some sort I can use. I think I've been rambling a little bit too long. So, hopefully that covers everything so far in the channel. Hopefully my cars will be fun again, fun to drive, and not just the 300ZX, but all my cars. Hopefully it'll be fun again to drive. That'll be lovely.